entire phenomena means in his coming presentation. Sorit is an avid cartoonist. He has an experience of working with multiple media organizations. He contributes his cartoons currently to the Down to Earth magazine, which is the flagship publication of the Center for Science and Environment. Center for Science and Environment is the parent organization of the Young Environmentalist, which is hosting this session for you today. And apart from being an avid cartoonist, Sorit takes a lot of interest in nature. He is also a great storyteller and also dabbles once in a while with a lot of art and craft activities. I will request all of you to pay good attention to his presentation. In case you have any queries, questions, etc., please send them to me on the chat separately. And I will come back to you at the end of the session. And then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. So let's begin this session with Sorit. The floor is yours now. Sorit, you would need to unmute yourself.
Hi. Hi, friends. How are you?
You all can respond through through your reactions, thumbs up, hands raised, etc.
Actually, I am a little busy right now just to count how many insects are there. So let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have to count till 50 million, I think. So I need a little time. Shall I go to count how many insects are there in the world? It's roughly 50 billion or 2 billion, whatever. I am not sure. I have to count. And second thing, which I come to know from your answer today, that butterfly question, today only I come to know why butterfly don't wear shoes. Because if they start wearing shoes, how they can taste their food? It is really tough for them, no? Okay, let's begin today's story. And today's story is, as you know, it is Apocalypse Now, our insect world and the threat to it, right? Now, first tell me, how many of you have heard about the sixth mass extinction? Just raise your hand. Sixth mass extinction. Is there anything called sixth mass extinction? Or it is just a fiction? Now, the Earth is at the brink of the sixth mass extinction. It is a fact. Now, a mass extinction is a loss of about 3/4 of all species over a short geological period of time. Data shows that some 77 species had lost 94% of their population in the last century. In the same period, more than 400 vertebrate species become extinct. Extinction is a normal process. What is abnormal is the fact that normally it takes some 10,000 years in the normal course of evolution. And now it is happening just within a century. That explains the tremendous speed of the process of extinction. Here is a chart which shows what is the rate of extinction for the different category of animals: mammalia, avians, reptiles, amphibians, vertebrate. But one column is missing. Can you find out one column? Which is that column? Soon we will be coming into that column. There is an interesting thing about the mass extinction. Larger animal species are relatively easy to study. That's why when we talk about sorry, the mass extinction, the first thing that comes to our mind is the picture of big animals. Whenever we talk about excuse me, whenever we talk about big animals, it is always about rhinoceros or bears or penguins or things like that. However, there are animals that have received less attention, probably due to their very small size. Today, we will be talking about one such species of animal. With some 5.5 to 7 million different species, I am talking about species, and every species have some countless or millions number of members. So I am talking about just species, and with some 5.5 to 7 million different species, they are by far the most varied and abundant animals. Biomass wise, they outweigh humanity by 17 times. But again, more than 40% members are declining. A third are endangered. The rate of extinction of this species is 8 times faster than mammals, birds, and reptiles. And more importantly, we hate them. Why? Because according to our common perception, they destroy our crops and spread diseases. Moreover, they are ugly, unfriendly, toxic. In one word, they are insects. Insects are probably the only species that we are never able to make our pets. Have you ever seen someone playing with a housefly in a park, or having a mosquito, a cockroach, a wasp, or a centipede as a pet? How many of you have a pet insect? You have pet dogs, someone must have pet cats, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to insect, do you have any one of you have insect as your pet? Probably no. Let's move forward. When I was a kid like you, I still remember there would be a sudden rise of insects during spring. It was as if our planet turned into the planet of insects. There would be insects everywhere. Insects in the food, insects in the glass of water. After dusk, the street lights would be encircled by countless insects of different colors, shapes, and sizes. The cup-shaped light guards of the street light were often filled with the dead insects, making the light very dim. We used to cover our light bulb in our homes with neem leaves, at times with a white paper carry bag, and so on, in order to reduce the insect menace. But for the last couple of decades, something strange had happened. Nowadays, such kind of experiences are rare. By the way, have you ever wished that all the insects would just die out? How many of you want that all the insects should wipe out from the surface of the earth? Just raise your hand. Because you know they are ugly, smelly, not very helpful. So is there any need to have insects with us? Because if we get rid from the insects, there will be no mosquito bites, no more diseases like dengue, malaria, Zika, encephalitis, no house flies, no cockroaches here and there. As a matter of fact, we are going towards that direction. Insects are dying in an alarming rate. It is also termed as insect apocalypse, a part of that big picture called sixth mass extinction. Now, there are a number of factors which results into mass extinction, but as far as the extinction of the insects, it happening because of intensive agriculture, pesticide, urbanization, deforestation, river alteration, global warming, to name a few. When the number of individuals in a population or a species decreases after a certain limit, its contribution to ecosystem are lost forever. In this case, the insect's contribution to our ecosystem will cease to exist. So, why should we worry about that? Let's find the answer. Imagine one fine day, all the insects have vanished. The farming community will be very happy because they won't have to face the menace of the harmful pest and locust anymore. We also be very happy because there will be no cockroaches, no insect bites, no mosquitoes. But wait, we know that all living things eat. So everyone poops. Humans and their domesticated animals are estimated to produce at least some trillions kilograms of poops each year. Trillions kilograms. Likewise, every living thing will die. Have you ever wondered who cleaned our planet? It is insects. Insects are one of the biggest decomposer of our planet, who decomposes not only the excreta, but also the dead animal bodies and recycle the nutrients into the soil. In the absence of the insects, this cleaning mechanism will stop. Besides decomposition, the process of nutrient recycling will also come to an end. In that case, the farmers will need to put more and more and more artificial nutrients into the soil in order to maintain the fertility of the soil. It will escalate the cost of production, eventually followed by the skyrocketing of the cost of food. Are we ready for that? High cost of food? Are we ready for high cost of food and very unclean atmosphere? Okay, that's good. Being the most important vector of pollination, insects are in real terms our annadata, our food provider. In the lack of pollination, 90% food items will completely disappear from our food plate. If this is our food plate in your screen, the red portion shows the absent part, and only we will left with the 10% of our food plate. If the insects would disappear, there will be no chance of long-term survival, regardless of you being a vegan or a meat lover. Insects are the ones who hold the food web together. They are food for some reptiles, small birds, and frogs. If all the insects vanished, those animals would cease to exist too. The animals feeding on frogs and reptiles would be the next to die off. We would be left to slowly starve on a planet heaped up with piles of organic waste. Is there a way out? Yes, there is a simple solution to avoid such a catastrophe. Aware people about the services we are getting from insects. Encourage them for insects conservation. We need to shift our position from what the insects do for us to what can we do for the insects. Insects have been serving us since the dawn of human civilization. Now they are in a deep crisis and they desperately need our help. Save the insects. Act now. Say no to climate change. Act to stop the insect apocalypse in order to save our greatest friend. Before closing the presentation, I want to ask you something. How many of you are insect lovers? Just raise your hand. How many of you are insect lovers? Oh, there are a lot of insect lovers there. And now tell me, how many of you are insect hater? Is there any insect hater in this group besides me? No. Okay. Everyone is insect lover. That is really good. So draw your favorite insects and collect information about that insect and share it with us. Okay. So that was today's story. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sorita, for this wonderful and informative session for us. It was really enlightening to know all such exciting facts about insects and how they are important. I'm getting a lot of queries from our such keen and excited audience. So one by one, let me come to you, unmute you, and then you can ask your questions. So the first question is to Anirudh Mukherjee. Anirudh, can you please unmute yourself and pose your question? Can you hear me, Anirudh? Oh, 1 second. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Sir, so in the first picture, you showed us like a bar graph or something.
Sorry?
So in the first picture, you showed us like a bar graph or something. So what do those colors mean? Like those different colors? Because they were like in one line there were like different colors. So
he wants to know more about the graph slide, sir.
No, he must be asking about if different colors represent something else than graphs or not. No, actually, this different color is just to segregate one information from the other. That's it. Nothing else.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So my next question is from Akanksha Das. Akanksha, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so my question is to you that which is the most deadliest and the most beautiful insect in the world?
See, most deadliest. See, first of all, we don't know how many types of insects are there. Right now, when we say that there are 50 million species or 5.5 million species, these are all tentative numbers. So if we don't know how many insects are there in the planet, it is really tough for anyone to say categorically, this insect is the deadliest. Or for that matter, this insect is most beautiful. And for me, at least, I like butterfly the most. And for me, the deadliest insect is wasp, which is around our home right now. Nowadays, it is the spring. This is the time of the pollination, and this is time of the flowers. So it is a time for the wasp to attack us. So for me, at least, it is the wasp, the deadliest.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akansha, for posing this question. Okay, I see a lot of hands raised for queries. So Shivank Sharma has something interesting to say on the deadliest insects. Shivank Sharma, do you want to put your point? Yes, Shivank, go ahead.
According to me, the deadliest insect would be the mosquito.
Okay, and why so?
As it kills the maximum people, but sting is by the bullet ant.
So you're saying that both mosquitoes and bullet ants are the most dangerous, is it?
Man, mosquito wins, but bullet ants don't bite on purpose. They only bite when you irritate them. So the deadliest mosquito will be the deadliest insect will be the mosquito because of its diseases and it causes maximum kills per year. I think it crosses 1 million.
Oh wow, you seem to be really informed, Shivank. Thank you so much.
Anubhuti, can I also pitch in over here?
Yes, sir, please, please.
Yeah, Shivank did raise a very pertinent question, but also the thing is that we tend to ignore the fact that flies perhaps are the causes of a huge number of deaths across the world because the contamination of food and water that we ingest happens a lot through flies, which are transporting contaminants from one place to the other. So flies also can be counted as some of very deadly insects, besides mosquitoes, of course.
Thank you, sir.
Let me add something.
Sure, sir. Sure.
See, friends, when we talk about or when we use the term deadliest, it has two connotations or it can be divided into two categories. First, when we say that this animal or this plant or for that matter, anything is deadly, we are essentially talking about the poison. Like a snake is a deadly animal because it has poison. But when we're talking about insects, then again, we have to segregate or we have to explain whether we want to name it as a deadly thing because of the poison or something else. When we say that mosquito is the deadliest insect, mosquito itself is not deadly because the bite of mosquito doesn't kill anyone. It is the pathogen it carries which is deadly. So there are insects which are like wasps or like honeybees or bees. They are deadly because they carry poison. But mosquito doesn't carry poison. Mosquito carries pathogens. So there are insects which are vectors of different diseases, be it Zika or encephalitis or the deadliest form of malaria or things like that. So we have to be very, very cautious when we say that certain animal is deadly and on which category it is deadly. I hope I have explained the thing properly.
Surely, Sorinda. We have Amrita Bharadwaj next. Amrita wants to ask a question. Amrita, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to ask that estimated sum how many species of ant would be in the world?
If you have already put the term estimated, then anyone can estimate anything. And honestly speaking, I don't have exact answer how many categories or how many types or how many species of ants are there.
Okay. The next query is by Ojit. Ojit, you had 2-3 questions in line. Please shoot.
Okay, ma'am. So my name is Devojit. Ojit is my father's name. So sir, I wanted to ask that why is it said that if there are no insects, then no chocolate?
Very good question. Actually, I am very much in favor of insects because they provide chocolate to us. Is it so? Let me explain. Chocolate is just, actually, we obtain chocolates from cocoa tree, and the tree, the pollination of that tree, like 90% of all other foods we consume depend highly or completely depend on insects for their pollination. So if there is no insects in the planet, who will do the pollination? And in absence of pollination, there will be no flower. And if there is no flower, then is no question of having fruits. And from the seed of fruit, we obtain chocolates or cocoa or whatever. So that is the whole picture, or it is the whole stages why we need insects. And it is true for chocolate, and it is true for each and every fruit we consume, be it apple or you name it, you name it.
Thank you so much, Sarada. Okay, the next question is by Tuhin. Tuhin just dropped me a text that he wants to ask a question. Tuhin, can you please go ahead and pose your query?
Hello.
Tuhin Mukherjee?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you please be a little louder? We are not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little more if you could increase your volume or be closer to the mic.
Actually, it is the nearest.
Okay. Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, it will also be very nice if we could see you, but nonetheless, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So, very good morning, ma'am, and respected sir. So, I had a question that I have a rooftop garden, you can say, and also there are in my area there are many trees and there is also a lake nearby. So I find many birds and insects visiting my place and even my garden a lot. But I am unable to recognize them most of the time. So is there any way, or is there like any way out by which I can know which birds or which insects are actually visiting my place? Because they seem so similar.
Yes, Tuhin, you have raised a very good and I must say very fundamental question or fundamental drawback of our thinking process, that I don't have any answer why we can't develop a kind of bird watching. Just like we have bird watching, why can't we have a thing called insect watching? Because you know what, with these insects, we have some very negative thoughts with us, that they are creepy, they are crawly, and they are smelly, and they are not good at all to have a minimum kind of importance. We don't give importance to insects. And there is a subject, entomology, and this entomology is introduced in masters, not even in graduation. That is another problem. And By the time you reach to the masters, you start losing interest in each and every other thing. So if at all you have interest on insects, you can pursue only after reaching masters. So I would suggest, if you know anyone who is pursuing his or her masters in entomology, you can meet and then you can take guidance from him or her. Right now, I don't think we have some books on butterflies. See, we have segregated the quote unquote beautiful things from the insect world, and we just concentrate ourselves on the beauty part, that is the butterfly. What about the rest of the insects? So we desperately need a book on how to know the insects.
Sorit, if I may add,
yeah,
you already have such books available now. And also, Tuhin, the internet is a huge resource. Of course,
Yes,
it
sir.
also, gives you a lot of information which may not be precise or correct. But that's the first thing that you could perhaps go to.
Yes,
One of the
sure.
ways that bird watchers do, as I saw somebody writing in the chat also, there are certain apps and applications which you can use to click a photo and then match it to that application, which will tell you exactly what kind of species and what bird and etc. is. Okay, so those things are now coming up. Those things are available. Of course, till some years back, as Sorit was saying, these were not there. And bird watching as a science, as even as an art, and even as a style of life, has developed intensively and extensively. But I don't think insect watching per se has gone to that extent. But yeah, I mean, it's probably as exciting a field as bird watching is. And why don't you start it yourself? It will be very good to document what are the creatures that are coming into your your garden or wherever you are observing them, and keep a record of that.
Yes. So the actual problem is, for me, someone like just a normal kid, an amateur photographer, it is very difficult to photograph, especially the insects. They are so much dynamic and so much mobile, and
No,
I don't even
I
have a
understand
proper
that.
DSLR kind of camera from which I
No,
can
I
focus
understand
properly.
that. If your intention is only to identify, then it should not be that big a problem, because you can use whatever kind of camera you have, even a mobile phone, to capture and then start looking for identifying the thing. So that is probably the more difficult part, where you'll have to research a bit, you'll have to look up whatever sources are available and start identifying. But it's an excellent way of passing time.
Yes,
I would say, it's an excellent way of passing time. So yeah, so Anubhuti, over to you.
All right, sir. So, okay, I'm unmuting Pardeep Chunheja. Pardeep, you have posted very interesting comments on the chat strip. Would you like to speak a little more? Hello? Pardeep, are you able to hear us? Okay, I think we'll circle back to Pardeep a little later. Yes, so I got a query from Yash Bharadwaj. Yash, please go ahead, unmute yourself and speak up.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please tell us a little more about yourself as well.
Ma'am, my name is Yash Bhagwaj. Ma'am, I am from Patna. Ma'am, I love insects, and ma'am, I hate them also, ma'am, because of mosquitoes. Ma'am, but not like that, ma'am. But there are many kinds of insects that I love, that like honeybees, silkworms. But I don't like that. Why we kill them use for our benefit, like we kill silkworms for producing silk. But I like the practice that we are switching to alternate methods like nylon and other type of artificial fabrics. And ma'am, in fact, my first poem that I write poems also. So ma'am, my first poem was I imagined me myself to be an worker bee, ma'am, the honey bees that produce the honey. So
Oh,
ma'am, I'm also an insect lover.
that's really insightful. Thank you so much, Yash, for taking so much interest in insects and the tiniest of the tiny creatures. Uh, Please go ahead and pose your question. You seemed to have a question for Sorit. Yash, are you able to hear me? I think let's proceed to another question. Okay, there's a hand raised by a lot of you. Shanvi Mathur, I'm unmuting you. Shanvi, do you want to ask a question? You have your hand raised for quite some time now.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to ask, when you have, sir, had show us second picture, that has one insect, the insect near one ball like green colored. I not understand what is that.
Are you referring to some slide in the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry, sir, can you?
Yeah, come again. Actually, I didn't understand your question. Shall I open my the presentation again?
Yes, sir.
Let me try.
So Shanvi, meanwhile, tell me something about yourself. Like, which class do you put up in? Where are you based?
Please repeat your question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't know. When you have shown us second picture, it has one insect now. One in that insect near is one green ball. I not understand what is that.
You mean to say the cover? Let me just a minute. Can you see the pictures or my presentation on your screen?
No, sir.
I think this picture on green background. Just a minute.
Sorit, I have shared it.
Okay.
Let me know when to stop.
I think this picture.
No, sir.
Okay.
Which one then?
When you have showed second picture.
Second. This one?
Yeah. Sir, I want to ask, we want what insects, when the insects have
Okay.
Why the insects are, when you have showed insects, why insects are thin also? You have show thin picture also insects.
Shanvi, do you mean that why insects are long and lean and thin? Some insects?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Actually, not just insects, any animal or plant or any living thing, the color, from the color to shape to eat habit, everything developed through millions of years. And this development was just to adapt a particular organism into a particular habitat. So there is an insect called stick insect, which is just like an stick. And why it is like that? It is just a tactics. It is just a kind of adaptation or tactics to save themselves or save the insects from the predators.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarita. Another query is by Anuradha. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not Aniradha. It's Anirudh. Anirudh Mukherjee. Anirudh, you had some very interesting comments to make. You had some very interesting comments in the chat strip. We are circling back to you.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I had a few more questions.
Yes.
I have two questions. My first question is, how come ants are so smart if their brains are so small?
From insects, we can learn one thing. There is no direct relation in between our smartness and our brain. Now tell me whether you are a smart guy or brainy. In which category you want to place yourself? Now, no, okay, jokes apart. Actually, they are smart because they learn they have to be smart in order to save themselves from the predator.
Okay.
It is as simple as that.
Okay. And my second question was that all the farmers, they need a lot of insects because they also help with the soil and everything. So don't these farmers think that these are enough and like we don't need fertilizers or like that, because the insects are also very good like fertilizer doer.
You mean to say that farmer needs insects?
Yes. So why do they use fertilizers? Because they don't need fertilizers as such, because they can also use
very good question.
insects.
Very intelligent and very good question. And before explaining this or before giving answer, any one of you can try to give the answer.
You can put your responses in the chat strip if you want.
Okay, meanwhile, let me try to explain the thing. See, insects are both useful as well as harmful. And it is when we say that insects are beneficial to the farming community or for humanity or things like that, we essentially are talking about the pollination aspect or the recycling of nutrients, which we have just seen, these aspects, then everything is okay. But what really happens in our modern day agriculture practices, there is something I don't know whether you know or not. There is a term called monocrop. You know what is monocrop?
No, sir. I don't know.
Okay, monocrop is nothing. In very simple way, monocrop is you are sowing rice, then again rice, then again rice, then again rice, then again rice, right? Yes, what sir. we used to do in past, we used to change the crops. So first is say wheat or rice, then we sow say some kind of other plants. when you sow the same crop repeatedly, every crop is dependent on, or there are pests or the insects which are highly dependent on one crop. So when you keep on repeating or the same crop, the same insects will start accumulating on the land. And just to get rid of that insects from the land, you need to spray pesticide, which is again very, very, very harmful, not for soil, for us also. So it is actually the agriculture practices which is making harm both to our food plate as well as the environment. So you can't tag particular insects as beneficial. It all depends the number of insects or the types of insects. They can be beneficial or they can be harmful as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Anubhuti, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Sarita. So yeah, thank you, Anirudh, for posing such inquisitive questions. Our next question is from Nitin Niranjan. Nitin, can you please, if possible, switch on your video and also ask your question? Also tell us something about yourself. Nitin, can you hear us? I think we have lost Nitin. We'll come back to him in a while. Okay, so our next question is by Rohan Mehta. Rohan, please go ahead and ask your question. Please unmute yourself. Yeah, Rohan, please tell us something about yourself. Tell me, where are you doing?
My name is Rohan. I'm years old.
Sorry?
My name is Rohan. I am 10 years old. So I used to like insects since I started to crawl. I used to chase after ants. So I wanted to become an entomologist when I grew up.
There's some glitch in your audio. Yeah.
I'll fix it up.
No problem. Okay, so while Rohan fixes his audio, I think let us go and ask questions to someone else. All right, so I think that we have more or less answered everybody's queries. Thank you so much for posting your questions, taking interest in the session, and for being so attentive. I would request my colleague Sukanya to unmute all of you, and you can say your goodbyes and closing messages to us now.
Ma'am, so I fixed my.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, ma'am.
Hey. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. For the
Bye, sir. Bye, ma'am.
In case you have any more questions, you can email it to us at @downtoearth.org.
Thank you, sir. Love the session, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, ma'am.
Yeah. The email ID is that's it. Thank you so much for attending our session. We'll come up next
My query was if how to take care of an injured butterfly. I get butterflies, how to feed them, and so.
Okay, let's take this last question. Sorry, would you like
See, honestly speaking, I don't have any answer because I never dealt with butterflies and I don't know how to treat an injured butterfly. Actually, it is really tough. No, it is very serious question, and butterflies are too delicate kind of thing. You just if you just want to shift an injured butterfly from one place to other, you can see that the pigments will transfer to your fingers. So they are very delicate.
So I use the body instead of the wings.
Yeah, it is very good, but you know they are too delicate. If you just grab them in your two fingers, they can be injured.
Yeah. So I tried feeding them with nectar, but they drink it and then they die in a few days. So.
Oh, it's really sad. It is really sad.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for all your questions and queries. We shall now close the session and hope to see all of you again next month in our other live session. Thank you so much for being a part of the Young Environmentalist.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.